Okay, so after the integration center processes and thinks of a way to send this to the muscle for a contraction, what happens is it goes through the one synapse, and then it sends to the muscle to contract. And that is sent by a motor efferent neuron. Okay, so what is happening is the motor neuron is basically telling the muscle, or the patella in this circumstance, hey, you need to contract. But this happens very quickly. Like this is automatic. This is happening very quickly. And so that is what happens in a monosynaptic reflex. We're here in a second. Alex is going to tell you the process of how a polysynaptic reflex works.
I'm going to be explaining what a polysynaptic reflex is. So an example of a polysynaptic reflex is your hand touching a very hot pot and then your hand pulling back immediately. So the very hot pot that your hand's going to be touching is the stimulus and your hand is the receptor. So when your hand touches a hot pot, the sensory information is going to be received by the receptor. And the sensory information is going to travel to the spinal cord by the sensory neuron. The sensory neuron is going to meet in the integration center in the gray matter of the spinal cord. Unlike the monosynaptic reflex, the integration center has multiple synapses and one or more interneurons, and the interneurons are held in the gray matter of the spinal cord. So the interneurons' purpose is to process the information being sent from the sensory neuron and is to coordinate multiple different muscles. So then the interneuron is going to decide to contract the muscle. So if it does decide that, it is going to send, well, first the sensory neuron is really going to meet with the interneuron where that's going to process the information and decide to contract the muscle. Then the interneuron is going to send the motor neuron to the muscle, which is the effector. So this is the motor neuron. So the motor neuron is going to tell the muscle to contract. So this is the whole process of how a polysynaptic reflex works, starting with your hand touching the very hot pot, and it goes through this process to contract your muscle, pulling your hand away. Also, to add to the polysynaptic reflex, the polysynaptic reflexes doesn't always have to include the brain, because most of the time it uses the spinal cord for more faster immediate reflexes, but it can also use the brain for more complex, and it's a little bit of a slower process of a reflex. But most of the time the reflexes are just going to be held or just going straight to the spinal cord, and it has nothing to do with the brain.
All right, so what we should have learned in this video is what a reflex is,
Why a reflex is important,
key components of a reflex arc,
the difference between a monosynaptic reflex and a polysynaptic reflex.
and we hope this video really helped you. And shout out to Professor Langford. We have learned so much from you. All right, bye.
Bye.